Chapter 9, Lesson 1, Graphing Quadratics. So the first way we're going to do quadratics today is by using an XY table. Now remember that a quadratic is anything that starts with x squared, and because it has a degree of 2, that tells you the shape is a parabola. And you have 3 types of parabolas. You can have one that crosses twice and has 2 x-intercepts. You can have one that sits on the line and so it only have 1 x-intercept. Or you could have what's called a floater, something that doesn't cross at all, and so it has no x-intercepts or no solution. They can also be upside down with 2, 1, or none. So on this first one, because it starts with a negative out front, we know this is going to be a flipped parabola. And because of the plus 2 at the end, we know it's going to be up 2. So we know that it's going to start here and it's going to go down in some sort of fashion. Now, in order to find a couple of the other points, we're going to use -1, 0, and 1. So I have the negative of -1 squared plus 2, which would give me 1. Then I have 0 squared plus 2, which gives me 2. And then I have 1 squared, the negative of it, plus 2, which gives me back to 1. So I have -1, 1, and 1, 1. And my parabola would look like that. So on this one, I'm going to use my 3 values again. 1 squared, -1 squared is 1, plus 6 is 7, plus 3 is 10. 0 would give me 3, and 1 minus 6 is -3, plus 3 is 0. So I have -1 comma 10, 0 comma 3, and 1 comma 0, which didn't give me fully my curve, but it did give me kind of the start to it. All right, so after we've done it the easy way with finding the table, what we're going to do is we're going to start plotting a couple of major components of a quadratic. So the first thing we're going to talk about is the axis of symmetry. And the axis of symmetry is a vertical line where your parabola is folded in half. To find that, you're going to do the opposite of the b term or the b coefficient over 2 times the a coefficient. Remember, it goes ax squared plus bx plus c. Once you figure out where your axis of symmetry is, you know that your vertex has to be on that line because that's the turning point where the line folds in half to mirror itself. So if we already know what the x coordinate is of the vertex, and I just need to figure out what is the y coordinate, I can just put the x back into the given equation, and that will give me the y coordinate. The other point we're going to talk about is the y-intercept, and we remember that that's when x equals 0, so it's going to cancel everything out except for the c term. So on this first one, we're going to find the axis of symmetry, and it's my formula is 1x squared plus nothing x minus 9. So my a is 1, my b is 0, and my c is -9. So the axis of symmetry is 0 over 2 times a, which is 0. So when I come here to my graph, my axis of symmetry, or where this vertex is going to fold in half, is on the y-axis. Then I know that my vertex is some point among there. So when I put 0 in for my x squared minus 9, it would give me 0 squared minus 9, which is -9. So my vertex is 0, -9. It also happens to be my y-intercept. And so I'm just going to look and say, since it starts as a positive x squared, I know that it's going to open up. On the second one, a is -2, b is 8, and c is -5. So I start with my axis of symmetry, which is opposite of B over 2 times A, which will give me 2. Now for my vertex, I'm going to put 2 back into my equation. So I'm going to do negative 2 times 2 squared plus 8 times 2 minus 5, which would give me negative 8, 8, 3. Then I also need my y-intercept, and my y-intercept is where x equals 0. So I'm going to do negative 2 times 0 squared plus 8 times 0 minus 5, which is negative 5. And so I know that this is opening down, and my parabola looks like that. Okay, the next part of this is finding the minimum or the maximum of a parabola. So go ahead and pause here and take the notes. So in this first one, I'm looking here and I have a positive 5x squared, which tells me that my parabola is going to open up. And so I know that my vertex is going to be a minimum. Then it says, what are the domain and range of the function? My domain is going to be all x's. And also I should have known that my y-intercept was positive 2. And I don't have my other part of the equation. So I'm going to have to pause for a second. Okay, so I've gone to my y equals, and I need to put in the equation, which was 5x squared minus 2x plus 2. Let's try this again. Alt-Shift-F. Okay, so we have 5x squared minus 2x plus 2. So if I look at my parabola, it is opening up, so I know my vertex is a minimum. Also, this gives me the lowest point of my graph, which is 1.8 on my y. So Alt-Shift-F. For my range, I know that all of my y's are greater than or equal to 1.8. On number 8, I know this one is going to open down, so I know that my vertex is a maximum point. Negative x squared plus 5x. Negative x squared plus 5x minus 10. Okay, so this one I can see that the vertex is negative 3.75 and everything else is below it. So for my range, it's going to be all y's that are less than or equal to negative 3.75, and my domain is all x's. The equation h equals negative 0.005 x squared plus x plus 3 describes the path of a baseball hit into the outfield. H is the height, and x is the horizontal distance the ball travels. What is the equation of the axis of symmetry? So in this case, A is negative 0.005, B is 1, C is 3. So for my axis of symmetry, I do opposite of B over 2 times A, which gives me negative 1 divided by open 2 times negative 0.005. 100. And then what is the maximum height reached by the baseball? Well, we know a baseball throw would look like this. So my vertex would be the maximum point. So when I put 100 into the equation, that should give me my maximum height. So negative 0.005 times 100 squared plus 103. It gives me 53. So my maximum height would be 53 feet. An outfielder catches the ball 3 feet above the ground. How far has the ball traveled horizontally when the outfielder catches it? So if the y value is 3, it wants me to solve for the horizontal distance. So if I let the height be 3, I'm going to subtract 3 to both sides, which will cancel these out. So I'm left with 0 equals negative 0.005 x squared plus x. They have a greatest common factor of x. So I set the greatest common factor equal to 0 or the binomial equal to 0. Subtract 1. And then take negative 1 divided by negative 0.005 gives me 200 feet.